All right, good evening, everyone. I will call to order this meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency, and we'll start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Sparks.
Here.
Councilmember Harvey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lemus.
Here.
Mayor Ford.
Here. Thank you. So we're on to approval of minutes and notice of waiving of reading of all resolutions and ordinances introduced and/or adopted under this agenda. We have one set of minutes from our last meeting on October 14th. Did council members notice any needed changes? Okay, we'll open this for public comment. Anybody in the chambers have public comment on the minutes from October 14th? Not seeing any. We'll check with our Zoom attendees.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please use the raise hand icon.
You're going to hit me.
It looks like we do have a hand for public comment on approval of the minutes. The Zoom name says SAVS Administrator. You have the floor.
I'm sorry, I wanted to comment on the proclamations.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
hold
thank
that
you.
comment until then. Any others?
No, that will end public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So back to council. If there's no discussion, and is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, that carries unanimously. Which brings us to agenda item 3, proclamations. And we have 2 proclamations we are honored to present tonight. I have the privilege of reading the first one, which is for National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I'm going to invite, now I lost Autumn's name. I had it written down here. So I'm going to invite Autumn from Becoming Independent to come on up. Please tell us your full name. I apologize. And then I will read the proclamation and invite Autumn to say a few words.
My name is Autumn Tincher-Bresse.
Thank you. So this is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati, recognizing October 2025 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Whereas recognition of the contributions of persons with disabilities is an effective way to overcome negative stereotypes and eliminate physical and attitudinal barriers to full participation in all aspects of community life, including education, recreation, and employment. And whereas people with disabilities are an important, vital part of our community as valued workers, civic leaders, business owners, veterans, family members, and friends, and they are innovative and valued contributors in the workplace, the classroom, and the community. And whereas the City of Cotati is committed to ensuring that city programs and employment practices effectively serve and benefit persons of all abilities in order to support individual dignity, self-reliance, and productive lives for all people. And whereas Cotati is proud to renew its dedication to fostering equal access and demonstrating commitment to full inclusion of people with disabilities. Now therefore be it proclaimed on this 28th of October 2025 by the City Council of the City of Cotati that the month of October 2025 in Cotati is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and encourages all citizens to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of persons with disabilities throughout our community. And now I'd invite you to say a few words about the month and about the work of Becoming Independent.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm truly honored to be here tonight to speak on behalf of Becoming Independent. We've been serving this wonderful community since 1967, and it's been an incredible journey. As an employment specialist, my role is to help our clients find meaningful work. I work closely with each person to identify their strengths, match them with the right job, and provide coaching and support. It's truly rewarding to see our clients thrive. We offer a variety of services, including a day program where clients can engage in enriching activities, and independent living services where we support clients in their own homes to reach their own personal goals. And of course, we are incredibly proud that we've been named the best place to work for 16 years running. It speaks volumes about the dedication of our team. In short, Becoming Independent is a cornerstone of our community, making a difference every day. Thank you all for your support and for this incredible honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'd like to come down and get a picture with you, if that's okay, while I bring you your copy of the proclamation. And we'll take it on the other side of the podium. Thank you. So my colleague, Councilmember Savage, will read the second proclamation.
All right, thank you, Mayor Ford. With November 20th being the National Transgender Day of Remembrance, I'd like to read a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cotati proclaiming November 2nd, 2025 as Transgender Day of Remembrance. Whereas the City of Cotati recognizes that one of its greatest strengths is the diversity of its people and has a long-standing tradition of upholding the dignity of the individual. And whereas the City of Cotati supports equal treatment of all people, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, and ensures that acts of discrimination and hatred will not be tolerated. And whereas members of the transgender community contribute to the growing diversity and prosperity of our community. And whereas transgender persons, particularly transgender persons of color, continue to face high levels of discrimination, stigma, and bias that can fuel abuse and violence against their community. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance helps bring public awareness to anti-transgender hate crimes and honors the memory of those hurt and killed by acts of anti-transgender violence each year. And whereas our residents are encouraged to observe this day and to honor the lives we have lost because of senseless violence against transgender people, as we move forward together in the promotion of acceptance and understanding. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed on this day of October 28th, 2025, that the City Council of Cotati hereby proclaims November 2nd, 2025 as Transgender Day of Remembrance. And I'd like to invite Althea and Sid to come up and give a few comments. There's a service that will be held at Ner Shalom on Sunday, November 2nd, and they're going to give us some more information on that.
Thank you, Councilmember Savage. Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Sparks, Harvey, Lemus, all the city staff that we know get the real work done. This is a very interesting year. My notes for proclamations like this change every week because there's so much going on this year. Last year, it was a little bit pro forma. It was a matter of reminding everybody that Cotati's great, you are, that diversity is good, it is, and that mostly people in California, mostly people in this area want to stand up, take care of our neighbors. We know that our diversity, whether it's ethnic, or whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's people in wheelchairs, I'm doing double service tonight, or whether it's members of minorities such as sexual orientation or gender identity, we know that it makes a stronger society when we all just get to be ourselves and make the unique contributions that we can make. We know that the best and highest service of government, local and otherwise, is to enshrine that principle, to make sure that these things get protected, to make sure that all of us have equality before law, and that those of us who are subject to special discrimination or violence are occasionally given a little extra recognition like this one here tonight. So I'm going to say with all my heart, thank you. I am a veteran. I am a resident of Cotati Rohnert Park. I am a parent, a business owner, a homeowner. My children graduated from Credo. My daughter went to SSU, and I'm glad to live here in such a great place. So thank you, Cotati. Oh, yes, and November 9th at Ner Shalom, 2 o'clock, there will be a service recognizing Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is the day that people who have died from violence, died from self-harm, died from the kind of threats and misinformation that we're seeing all too common in our social discourse right now. Outright misinformation that endangers people. So that's the day that we take stock and read the names, and we say a prayer to whatever God we believe in, or in whatever chambers of our heart our conscience dwells, that people who die from this kind of violence should be recognized as full and complete human beings. So once again, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We're going to come down and join you and have a picture, and I'll give you the copy of the proclamation.
Let me turn around. Gonna go that way. Good job. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you.
And I neglected to take public comment on the proclamation, even though it was requested prior, so we'll take that now. Public comment? Is there anybody in the room wishing to make public comment on either proclamation? Okay, let's go to our Zoom commenter.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a public comment on the proclamations. The first hand is from SAVS Administrator. You have the floor.
Good evening. My name is Adrian Lobby. I'm talking to you not as the administrator of a nonprofit for homelessness, but as a Cotati resident. I want to thank the speakers and those who wrote and read the proclamations. These are both, it's very synchronistic to have them both at the same council meeting. We know that people with disabilities have very, very low employment. I want to acknowledge the people in Sonoma County who buck that. I see them in Oliver's, and I know they're one of the businesses, but I know there are many others who hire people with disabilities and look at what they can do, not what they are limited by. And I appreciate that. This is a year where we're having cuts to food stamps any minute now, and coming very soon, cuts to affordable care. These things affect that community disproportionately. So now is a great time to hire someone with a disability. In terms of Transgender Day of Remembrance, I was born and raised, and I was around when Anita Bryant did her hate campaign against lesbians and homosexuals in California. And we beat that back. And I see the prejudice that is coming out. You know, the Supreme Court is talking about restricting gay marriage. There's all sorts of stuff going on, but there is nothing compared to what is happening to my transgender sisters and brothers. And I'm just so very grateful that you are acknowledging this. Acknowledging is a start, and it means something to say, we stand with you, and I certainly stand with the trans people who are in my life, and I value them very, very highly. Thank you.
And there are no further hands. That will end public comment, Mayor Ford.
Thank you. And yes, thank you to the organizations. Thank you to the commenter. All right. We're on to agenda review, item 4. I want to point out that due to an error in putting the agenda together, the Pledge of Allegiance and the land acknowledgement were left off of the agenda, and due to the constraints of the Brown Act, we can't add them back in. So they will not happen tonight. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda?
No proposed changes, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. So this is any members of the public opportunity to speak on any items listed on the consent calendar or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Time limits are 3 minutes per person for any and all items on the consent calendar, and 3 minutes per person for items not on the agenda. And the mayor can grant additional time where disability accommodation has been requested. And we do have timer lights that will indicate when you're running out of time. So we'll open for citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. Let's start with Zoom this time.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand was from Neil Hancock. You have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me? This is
We
actually
can.
not Neil Hancock, it's Jenny Blaker.
Yes, we can hear you.
Calling in long distance. I hope the connection holds. I just wanted to request that you consider withdrawing item 6A from the consent calendar so that the question of trail resurfacing in Delano Park can be discussed. It seems that it's being taken for granted that the new surface will be asphalt, but there are many reasons, as you know, for preferring some kind of more natural surface that is also self-healing, not cracking and with so many fissures and bumps and so on that asphalt develops. And I did submit a very detailed email, but I was also thinking about how when this came up for the Laguna Trail, originally the staff supported the idea of an asphalt trail, and then after discussion, comment from the public, and with the city council, it was decided to change that to a more natural surface. And could the same thing please happen here? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next hand is from Lori Alderman. You have the floor.
Hi. I just wanted to, again, you've got a super clerk here, city clerk. Kevin did 5 hours of code enforcement hearing, did recordings, Zoom recordings, processed all this kind of stuff all day long, and here he is. Once again, don't keep him up too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next hand is from Jessica N. iPhone. You have the floor.
Hi, good evening. I also had a comment about the Delano Park pathway. I see that there was a bid from PJM Landscape, and I was just curious, and it's very possible that I've missed other meetings where it was discussed, but if they were the only one who was brought to the table in regards to this, I've personally, on a city project, have had an unfavorable experience with them, so I was just curious if they're just someone that the city reaches out to, or if they were the only ones that knew about it, or the only ones that placed a bid in. And that's it.
Thank you.
And there are no further hands, Mayor Ford. That will end public comment.
On Zoom, and we'll check in the room. Are there any public comments in the room? Okay, so that'll end citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items, and so that brings us to agenda item, well, let's see, for agenda item 6, the consent calendar, I think we could answer the bid question without withdrawing it, so I'll just check real quickly. Director Scott, can you address whether there was more than one proposal submitted for the Delano Park Pathway project? That was one of the public questions.
No, just the one proposal.
Okay, thanks. All right, so that takes us to the consent calendar. There are 4 items. Are there any items that any council members wish to pull from the consent calendar? Councilmember Sparks.
I have questions about one of the items. I don't know if you want me to ask them or if it'd be better to just pull it.
Are they informational questions, or are they like sort of leading to discussion questions?
I guess it depends what the answers are, so we should go ahead and
I think you'd better pull it if you want.
Okay, so I'd like to pull item C from consent.
Okay, I'll make a mark on that. Any others?
I'd like to pull 6A, the park.
All right, so 6A and C are pulled from the consent calendar, and they will go, I think I'm going to put them at the beginning of the regular agenda. All right with everybody? Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to approve what remains of the consent calendar?
Motion to approve items 6B and 6D.
Second?
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries unanimously. Which brings us to direction on future agenda items. Do any council members have items they'd like to see on future agendas? Okay, not seeing any. We're on to public hearings. Item 8A is the introduction of an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Cotati Municipal Code for the adoption of the 2025 California Building Standards Code with amendments. We'll start with staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Tonight's presentation of the California Building Code update will be made by Eric Seabrook. He's the city's contract building official and is much better versed in the building code process and standards than I. I'll be here to answer any questions as needed, but this is going to be Eric's show tonight.
Great, welcome.
I am the acting building official for the city of Cotati, and I am a principal in a consulting company that consults with the city here. I also do the inspections as well and do the plan review for projects that are extremely complicated and fairly simple as well. I'm here to introduce to you the 2025 building codes, because the state requires us to adopt new codes every 3 years, and we are mandated to do that. The code is published by the International Code Conference, which is an international company that generates codes that addresses everything from climatic conditions to earthquake environments, high wind environments, and California takes that document that's published throughout the world and amends that document to really address what California needs in its requirements. So some things are not necessarily applicable, but others are, and sometimes it's even more enhanced by some of the seismic events that we have to address here in California or even in the state. And as you know, we are pretty close to seismic activity and potentially high winds, and in addition to fires that continue to show up in our area as well. So every 3 years, we do adopt the code, and we make slight amendments occasionally to address what's specific to the city that we're adopting the code in. And this time, we've made a few modifications to the code, and they're in the amendment section of the code here, and I would like to go over some of those with you if you'd like. Let's see here. Sorry. Let's see. Let's see, we've adopted the building code and some of its amendments and appendices as well. And a lot of the times, the appendices are trying to address things that we experience that can be standardized so that we don't necessarily need to put the public and or people who want to implement. So it becomes more of a prescriptive kind of thing, or a prescriptive kind of package that addresses things like we're adopting patio covers, which are typical and not necessarily a complicated product or project that people can easily put in their yard and not have to go through a substantial amount of engineering and other processes. Same with tiny houses and tiny homes. We've adopted that, and that kind of inputs and or helps us address the housing shortage, and it makes it for a more affordable and more easily constructible product, and it's still livable and comfortable to most persons. And it bends the rules somewhat, but it also recognizes, it puts other safety features in place to keep that environment safe, such as each bedroom needs an egress window, which in the event of a fire, and they can't escape through the door that they came into the bedroom in. So there's an egress window requirement. And in the tiny homes, it's modified to even be accessible through a skylight. So those are some of the things that are done in an event. It still maintains that same level of safety that environment gets, and it makes it a safer environment. The code changes have also involved, I had all them memorized before I walked up here. Emergency housing, we've adopted emergency housing to address, I'm not going to say a lower standard, but it addresses the ability to convert some situations to address emergencies if there's a flood or a fire that we have, and we need to house people or persons that are victims of that disaster. So it gives us an opportunity to kind of react quickly on our feet and not have to go through the whole code process and or to get to some answers to address what our community needs at that time. So it helps you move faster through the process. We've also have adopted the current wildland, urban wildland interface code, which addresses more fire-resistive construction. And as you know, over the past few years, we've had a break in the last year or two, but we are subject to fire. Though this is not necessarily, Cotati is not necessarily in that fire-designated area. That footprint seems to move all too much, and in a couple of years, it may very well be, we may be in that. So this gives persons who are building the opportunity to construct with those standards of fire resistiveness with a prescriptive package. So it kind of addresses that, gives them a prescriptive way to go as opposed to redesigning it and us doing it individually as an individual product. So we can do it as it's a blanket, as an accepted standard, not really something that's individual. We have, the state also has the green building, which is a user-friendly, environmentally friendly product, prescriptive book that gives us direction for energy efficiency, interior environments and inhabitable spaces, so that products aren't off-gassing and things of that nature. So it's a more safer environment for persons in the built and living environments, from homes to hotels and any place where we would find ourselves in a confined space. It addresses more energy efficient kinds of products that gives us more efficiency and allows our energy sources to go so much further based on new standards that are continuously getting better by the products that are being produced. So the code sometimes chases the product and sometimes it pushes the product. So oftentimes it will get ahead of the product, but the industry continues to catch up. So in the energy case and in the green building case, I think we're about even, so there's no big gaps there, and most of the products are not necessarily limited to one or two manufacturers. It's a broader base, so that it gives the opportunity in persons to select specific things that may be more, aesthetically pleasing or efficient or whatever to their environment. So, this is one of the code books, and it's one of 13, and they're all about this big, and it contains a lot of information. Some of it is applicable to us. I mean, it addresses high rises, so I doubt if we'll ever see a high rise, but it also addresses single-family dwelling, hotels, motels, factory, production buildings, and everything else you can imagine in between. So it starts with the building code and administrative code, and it runs through the residential code, mechanical, plumbing, electrical code, and all those codes come in, and they're all amended by the state of California. And like I said, those specific things address California. When California adopted it, it addresses it, and published it in July, on July 1st. We have 6 months to look at that. I've taken fairly extensive looks at all the changes in the code, and most of them have been fairly administrative or helping, because it's pretty daunting, and one section will send you to another section to send you to another section. We try to be uniform in how we enforce that, and a lot of times it can be somewhat confusing. Most of the changes in here are bringing it together and helping us, the building enforcement community, unify our decision-making process so that what happens here based on the code interpretation happens everywhere. So that's pretty the mission of that, most of the changes. Like I said, there are minor changes, but most of them are fairly not impacting what we do. I'm gonna kind of wrap it up here if someone has questions.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, thank you, Eric, is there's some recent state legislation, AB 130, which was referenced in the staff report, that limits our ability to make amendments. The state, kind of in keeping with the drumbeat of the housing law changes that we've been talking about so often in our ordinance work, has limited the ability for cities to make amendments. And so I think it's worth noting that the amendments that Eric discussed are all ones that we had previously made and are allowed to carry forward as a part of the update. So those amendments are in keeping with AB 130. And then the other point I think that's kind of unique to Cotati is the fact that our fire district, thank you Chief for being here tonight as well, have their own set of kind of fire code standards and also some local amendments, which we have carried forward with this update to make sure that when we implement the building code, the fire code comes along with that. They do our plan check services for fire compliance, and so we have a little bit of a hybrid system here in Cotati, and it's important for us all to kind of move forward with these building code updates in lockstep, and we've made sure we do that. Eric and the chief worked really well together to make sure that everything is cohesive and consistent, so that way as they both do their separate plan checks and then those come back together and we provide comments back to the architects, engineers, et cetera, they're consistent and they're all able to implement under the new state law.
Great, thanks to both of you. Chief, did you want to add anything to the introduction of the item?
Great, thank you so much, I appreciate it. Noah's exactly right. We all work together on this process, and what the fire service did this year in Sonoma County, and actually it's happened for the last number of cycles, is all of the fire prevention officers work together to bring one standardized California fire code with standardized local amendments, so that whether developers developing in Cotati or Windsor or Sebastopol, the amendments are the same. They know what the playing field is, and they're able to work throughout different jurisdictions without the line changing. But we fully support the ordinance and can answer any questions that you have specifically of fire, if there are any.
Great, thanks. While you're here, so health and safety changes are not subject to the AB 130 prohibition, is that right?
That's great. So 130 is particular to residential construction only.
Yeah.
That's really, there are a lot of things in 130, and Noah probably can give you a lot more background. For the fire piece, and building piece, it's only about residential construction. So once we get out of that residential construction mode and we're talking about anything else, changes are allowed. It's just in that residential construction.
Okay. All right. Council members, anybody have any questions? Councilmember Sparks.
Yeah, I think maybe Noah might have answered this already, but just to double check that the urban wildland interface appendix that we're amending in and the Cal Green tiers that were chosen, those are all just carrying forward what we had done before?
We're carrying those forward
Okay.
from the previous code adoption, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll open this public hearing. So we'll start in the chambers. Anybody wishing to make public comment on the introduction of the 2025 California Building Code? Not seeing anybody, we'll check the Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori Alderman. You have the floor.
Hi, I wanted to just convey a little bit of a story. In 2014, many of you know we had the biggest explosions and fires and everything in probably the century next door. Well, when my parents bought the house in 1972, there was a lot of changes to the building code for earthquake safety. And when the structural engineers came in with a blast, they said that those earthquake building standards are what saved our house and our foundation. Basically, they used a very technical term. Our house went swoosh. It swayed back and forth like it's supposed to do with earthquake. So building codes they learn more as they go on. And who knew that 40 years later, those earthquake standards put in the early 70s would have made a difference in 2014. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
The next hand is from Neil Hancock. You have the floor.
Yes, good evening, Council. I just wanted to make a comment on the whole concept of where Cotati fits into the RAFAD, the Rancho Adobe Fire District, and possibly in the future, the Sonoma County Fire District, that we are an urban area, and a lot of the information on the RAFD, a lot of information about fire and defensible space really doesn't apply. So it says you need 100 feet defensible space, and I'd really like to see that Cotati as an urban area within the larger district that gets, good support, appreciate it, could have specific instructions about what to do in urban areas, what you can do to harden your homes, what you can do to have 5 foot of defensible space around buildings and things. So it's just really a comment that in some of the permits or some of the ways that it's being looked at, there isn't a lot of space for Cotati within that. When I replaced my Class A roof, also, there wasn't any design done for the top of the ridgeline. Sparks could get in top of the ridgeline, and I think that's a different. It's in the code, or it's a hard job. I have been chasing up through various types of groups as to why the top of the ridgeline hasn't got some form of mesh netting, which a lot of other attic space access does. But generally, for hardening a building, just having 1/8 inch mesh will prevent any sparks coming through. So thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further hands on Zoom. Mayor Ford, that will end public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll bring it back to the council for discussion, more questions, or a motion. You don't have to read the whole title.
Okay, thank you so much. Like to, let's see, we conducted the first reading of an ordinance to amend Title 14 of the Cotati Municipal Code to adopt the 2025 edition of the California Building Standards Code for the Standard 3 cycle, with updated regulations going into effect on January 1st, 2026.
This is a motion to introduce.
Motion to introduce that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. All right, that'll bring us to our regular agenda, and the first item on the regular agenda is the former item 6A, which is a resolution for approval of an agreement with PJM Landscape to repave the Delano Park pathway and amend the budget. So we'll start with the staff report on that one.
Hey, Mayor, members of the council, Craig Scott, Public Works Director, City Engineer. This item is to do routine remediation of an existing asphalt pathway. It's about 560 feet that connects Page Street to Valparaiso. And this came to our attention because the staff has been receiving complaints of the uneven surface of the pathway. And so staff went ahead and requested a quote from PJM Landscaping and received one, and here we are. Since this went to council in the packet, I went ahead and opened up a conversation with the contractor, and an option is available to us to do a decomposed granite with a binder. These are the type of pathways we see around town as an alternative. So we've got the asphalt as one alternative, as the primary recommendation, and then the decomposed granite with the binder as an alternative. And with that, be happy to respond to any questions.
Questions from council members? Go ahead.
I'm curious about the third alternative that we've been discussing for the other pathway of the more packed aggregate, or whatever we're calling it. Is that a possibility?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, that is a possibility, but we would it would take a considerable amount of time to research that. We're still not, for the Class 1 pathway, set on what that is down the Laguna. So we'd likely have the project wait through the winter and not get another opportunity until things dry out in the spring for that. There was some urgency, I think, that we're responding to here to get it replaced. I think, the city manager and myself discussed, this isn't the end all. If we pave it or do DG, a few years could go by and that surface layer could be ground up, disposed of in a more natural surface like we had been talking about previously, where you have a gradation of gravel up to something fairly fine, and it's a more natural surface. So this doesn't necessarily preclude that forever and always, but it does put it off a few years.
If we were to go with asphalt right now, we could finish that before, are you saying we could finish that before the winter?
Yes, I mean, we have some rain next week forecast, and sometimes this time of year the forecast changes, but they need about 4 or 5 days to do this work.
Councilmember Harvey.
With this other product, is there a type of guarantee on it? We kind of know what asphalt does. Do they guarantee it for a period of time? That path's been out there for over 30 years, and it's, other than the tree roots, it's held up. So is there any kind of guarantee on this different product?
Oh, on the decomposed granite product?
Well,
or the
you
asphalt?
said with a different
Yes,
product.
it's granite-crete. It's what we see out at Putnam Park and out at the farm next door here. It's the granite-crete product that we've been using throughout town. It would be done to that specification.
And what's the warranty on that? Do we know?
Typically, the contractor, I mean, if it's a minor construction agreement, we'll have a 1-year warranty, but we're not requesting that, requiring that in this case. It's done under it's a minor construction contract, so it will be a provision of the contract to have a 1-year warranty on this construction. You can see over West School Street, or what type of condition it how well it lasts over time.
So remember, we're just in questions now, so save conversation till later, but go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little confused because even the path across the street and the path by Putnam, there's loose gravel. It's, yes, compacted, but I was under the impression that this other product was more like a, I don't know, granite-based asphalt type product, not with loose gravel. Did I misunderstand that?
Well, Putnam has two types. The internal track within the dog park is just loose DG.
Okay.
And then the outside perimeter path is the granite-crete with the binder in it. And then the pathways we see around town have the binder in it. It's more like rigid. And in Delano Park, that's one of our concerns because it does get sloshy out there and flooded. And in fact, a truck got stuck in there trying to remove a tree this past year. We had to haul it out of there with our backhoe. So it's a concern just because the surface, the ground gets so mushy that we wanted a really good base and a firm pathway. But that's another thing we could research.
Okay, yeah, because it is a natural creek, is what Delano Park is a natural creek down into the bigger creek, so.
Additional questions?
Is the cost pretty similar on both options?
Yes, the decomposed granite could be done for the same or slightly less money.
Anything else? Okay, we'll open this for public comment. Nobody in the chamber, so we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand was from Neil Hancock. You have the floor.
Hello, thank you. Again, this is Jenny Blaker, not Neil Hancock. I just was a bit concerned about the surface with the binder, because it seems to be that that's the surface that is breaking up and not doing very well, where it's new in certain places around Cotati, whereas it seems that the compacted rock, or I'm not sure what it's called, but the one without the binder is what seems to be doing better and be more resilient, not cracking, not buckling with tree roots, etc. And I'm wondering if that is the product that could be used, or if there's some way of finding out which of these products have a better track record in other similar places. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next hand is from Jessica N. You have the floor.
Hi, thank you again. I just had a question in regards to, again, PJM Landscaping, why they were the only bid requested. It seems that this may be above the threshold and from the general fund, so I was just wondering if you were seeming that this was like an emergency need, or if I completely misunderstand and that it does not need to be open to bids. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. There are no further hands on Zoom. That will end public comment.
Okay. So back to council for discussion, further questions. I'm going to first just ask if you can address the bidding question and the threshold for minor construction, things like that.
Sure. Under California public bidding, public contracting code, any contracts under $75,000, you can request from a single company and negotiate that contract.
And we have existing relationships with PJM. They do other work for us that we found satisfactory, that sort.
Correct. They've done tree removal or landscaping. We've contracted with them before, yes.
Okay. Have they done any of our previous Granite Creek work?
No, this would be a first.
Okay. All right, discussion, other questions? Councilmember Harvey.
Yeah, while I generally agree with the direction that we've kind of gone with some of the other areas with using the granite and more natural surfaces, this area is a little bit different. It's a creek, and we've chosen to put a pathway in the middle of a creek. We had last weekend 1/4 inch of rain, and already that creek was flowing water this week. So we've done things like to keep the water from running across the road, they put a culvert underneath the road. So unlike Cypress, where Cypress completely floods, this at least has a culvert. But as Craig pointed out, in the wintertime, it's a muddy mess. So the only reason that in the wintertime people have been able to use that is because that asphalt is kind of hard and up there and drains off easily, and it has been there for over 30 years, and besides the tree roots that have caused problems, I think it's held up pretty good, and that's why I asked about this other product. I've had many people contact me about the safety of this, and I've turned much of that over to Damien, which is kind of why this is coming forward. It is, at this point, we really need to do something about it. My concern, while having really nice natural paths like we were talking about on the Laguna take time to design, this one, in order for it to really work in that area, we would have to raise it and get it out of that stream, if you will, so that it wouldn't flood, because otherwise I'm afraid that as the water comes through, it's going to wash this material away. And that's one of the reasons I asked about the durability of that, because it floods there every time it rains. And so that's kind of really my concern. But right now, something needs to happen because it's in extremely poor condition. So I was hopeful for, the sounds of this other product, but I'm not feeling convinced that that product will work for us in the long term and really solve our issue. And it could be possibly when we redo Valparaiso, as Craig pointed out, we might look at some other options, and maybe even moving the path to kind of the other side of the trees where it's a little bit higher. Maybe that's a possibility. But I'd like to see this fixed, because it is a danger. And aside from that, my husband goes there on a regular basis, and he sits there every day with a couple other gentlemen, and they were stopping people, kind of that use the park every single day. And they also would like to see this fixed, and very unscientific. Their choice, was really asphalt. It's very unscientific. But they stopped like 15 people and kind of asked them. But more than anything else, people want to see it fixed. I got other complaints about other things, but those are for another time.
Other comments?
I tend to agree. I don't know that I would feel comfortable moving forward with decomposed granite in that area. The DG stuff seems to fare the worst when there's water flowing across the path repeatedly in the same place. It kind of erodes it away. At least that's what I've seen. So I would like to see us investigate at a later date. Could we move to a more natural material, maybe after we've tried things out on the Laguna Path and we've got a solution that works there, then maybe we could come back and revisit this. But I don't want to see anybody, on that, having trouble on that dangerous path this winter. So the faster we can get it fixed, the better. I'd be comfortable just doing the asphalt for now and looking at it again later if we can.
Vice Mayor Loomis.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Sparks, and I have a question about how long is that path? I know it's not very long, but I didn't know the length of it, or.
560 feet, plus or minus.
Okay.
And it's about 4 feet wide now. It'd be widened to 5 feet.
Okay. So it's not very long. So it's kind of considerably different than the Laguna Trails, So, yeah, I kind of think that ideally it would be good to have something like DCG or something, but I think that right now, just because of the danger and what I'm hearing about the water and the flooding and everything, it sounds like it makes sense to do asphalt for now. But maybe relook at it, keep it on the list for later to look at.
I agree with Councilman Harvey. I think that there's some urgency around this, and while we'd like to have something more natural, maybe that's something we continue to look at, and maybe it is more of an extensive restoration of that whole pathway than what we're looking at right now might be the right answer.
In the future?
In the future, yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I would have been okay to go with the DG solution if people preferred that, but I'm okay to go ahead with the asphalt replacement. It's a small enough project that its overall impact, environmental impact versus the benefit it provides doesn't worry me that much. I do think that it would be worth going back to the DG company and letting them know that this is how the conversations are going, given the performance of their product, and if they want us to continue considering it, they're going to need to invest in their contractors and get it working up to spec, because we're having lots of reports of it falling apart, and we can't continue to use that if it's going to do that. Any more comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just have, maybe this is a question. When we looked at the numbers for the Laguna Path, the DG decomposed granite was more than twice as much or 3 times as much as the asphalt. So it kind of gives me pause if it's going to be the same price. I'm kind of curious how that's possible. That didn't quite make sense to me.
Well, the reason I was given this afternoon was that asphalt requires a lot of machinery. So for this small an operation, it was kind of inordinately large part of the project, and whereas DG is something that would not require renting all that machinery for it. So it was a slightly better price. Now for a long pathway, for the class 1 pathway, it was the paving would be just milling, removing the top surface, leaving the base the same, and then just paving it. And much of the Laguna pathway was slurry seal, which is much cheaper. It's just putting a thin layer. And so the asphalt was just putting a thin layer on most of it, whereas the natural paving would require removing most of the trail. So that was the difference. It's kind of a different situation.
Whereas at Delano, either solution would require removing what's there and basically starting. There's not a good base to start with at Delano. Okay. I'm not hearing anybody push for a different solution than what's in the packet. Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we adopt a resolution approving an agreement with PJM Landscape to remove and replace the existing pathway through Delano Park, authorize the city manager to execute said agreement and any change orders up to the authorized amount, and amend the budget for the required appropriations.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the former item 6C, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a professional services agreement to provide condition assessments of the city's sewer lift stations and well sites. And I think Director Scott gets this one too.
This is my item as well. Yes, so as we've been saying during the budget process, we want to, staff in the city, agreed, I think the council agreed with us, want to emphasize renewal replacement, anticipating failures and making those replacements before they fail, rather being in reaction mode. So this would be the first contract that puts us in that direction. With our 4 sewer lift stations, we would proactively be doing evaluations of them. Our 3 well sites, inspecting them with electricians, different trades would come in and do inspections. And then cost estimates of their recommended repairs, so that the different components would be looked at as to their importance and their life cycles, and based on that, a recommended mini CIP of each facility would be provided. Additionally, we have been wanting for some time to put generators, backup power at the sewer lift stations. And so this will provide us with the expertise to actually specify what type of generator to put at each of the sites. And then finally, well 2, this includes a preliminary design of a treatment system for well 2. It is the only well that we have without treatment for iron and manganese. All the wells, of course, have treatment for chlorine, injecting chlorine and getting it to drinking water standards, but well 2 has an iron and manganese, which are secondary standards. So if they go out into the system, it's okay. It doesn't violate our water permit, but it is a nuisance in the system, discoloration of water and so forth. So that's what this contract hopes to accomplish. I'd be happy to respond to any questions.
Great. I'm going to let Councilmember Sparks ask her questions now. We'll see where we are.
Thank you. I appreciate you bringing back this back with these details on it. And my question just pertained to some of the tasks. If we break out the list of tasks in the scope of work, the design of the well 2 treatment plan and the preliminary design, that makes sense to me, and the generator design makes sense to me. But a lot of these earlier tasks on the list include, it looks like they're doing an assessment, but a lot of the assessment steps are review documents that we provide to them and then interview our staff and kind of look at things visually. And I'm just wondering, is there any piece of that, since we're always trying to save as much money as we can, is there any piece of that you have any concerns? We might be just asking a consultant to tell us what we already know in some sense. Like we know certain parts of the well are old and might need to be replaced, and they're just going to ask our staff members and then tell us what the staff said. I just had a little bit of question about that. Or are they really adding something that we can't get internally?
Yeah, this is a pretty basic part of every assessment task or work effort is to start with interviewing maintenance staff and looking at all the records we have and fleshing all of that out so they get a really good understanding of it. And the consultant has that expertise to connect all the dots and see what's a priority. We're too immersed sometimes in the day-to-day maintenance of it that we don't have time to step away and look at the big picture. Like I'll get reports from the maintenance crews that, hey, this well component gave us a hiccup again, and I'm like, well, that's the second time this year, but it doesn't, it's difficult to put it all together unless you see it all in one place. So like trends and so forth. But I'd be worried if they did not have that task included in the scope, because we want them to be aware of everything about these wells as much as we can make them aware of so that they can make their determinations.
So just a follow-up, so what, if we've got this piece that keeps failing, Just because I don't know enough about this, so that's why I'm asking, so I understand it better. But it seems like, well, then let's fix that piece rather than pay these people to tell us we need to fix the piece. You know, like it seems like there's things we already know we need to replace. And so just explain it to me a little more.
I think a really good example of that is our submersible well. So a pump goes down 350, 400 feet, and down there, you know, there's screens and there's a submersible pump that they put inside the column all the way down at the bottom. And we've been told that those pumps last between 7 and 9 years. We've let them run 12, 14 years because of budget pressures, and it's still running. And so one day, surprise, it breaks on us and we replace it. So that's the situation we want to get out of. So if we had somebody that said, no, you really need to believe the 6 to 7 year mark and proactively replace this perfectly functioning pump, which is hard to do. It's hard if it's running and not giving you any problems. It's tough to just pick it out and put a brand new one in, but that's what we're looking at doing. And I think we need guidance like that would be provided in a study report like this for us to make those proactive moves. You're not waiting till a component's on its deathbed before you're replacing it. You're doing it sort of at a good period of time that you're anticipating it failing and replacing it.
So you kind of feel like without that external step of having somebody tell us, no, you really need to replace these things, we can't just take that step because we might be not using the full lifespan of things or something like that? Or?
Well, our MO is not serving us well, and we need to switch from that. I'm being kind of simplistic about it, but they can also provide us input like, hey, there's certain telltale things about these components, like a pump might start rattling, vibrating a little bit more, and the production might start dropping down, and they'll say, hey, look at these things, and that'll be an indication of replacing it. Like I said, we've got tunnel vision, admittedly, operating the system, and it's good to take a step back, and hiring somebody like this provides us that opportunity to do that objectively from an outsider looking in.
Well, I'm totally supportive of us switching to a different, anyway,
Okay,
go ahead.
just questions for now. Vice Mayor Lemus.
Yes, I have a question. I know these systems have been around for a long time. Have there been assessments like this before? Like, is there a baseline of reporting that has been done on this on a sewer and water before? Have we done something similar in the past, done an assessment?
Not that I'm aware of. Our water and sewer master plans were done in 2010, and they were all from a capacity perspective. Your service area is going to grow this much, you're going to need to add more pipes and add more treatment, add more water supply.
But it wasn't assessing our infrastructure, actual items.
Yeah, then there's a whole another type of study which looks at the condition of your system. Forget about the capacity. It's not looking at expanding capacity, it's just looking purely at the reliability, and that's what we're looking at now. Damien might be aware of a condition assessment we've done in the past. There may have been like isolated studies, or
no, not of the mechanical equipment. So in the water system, it's the wells primarily, and then in the sewer system, it's the lift stations. As Craig had said, I think historically, they'd run until. It was just how things had always operated here, is they run until failure. But there's certainly things you can do. Giving lifespans is a good, like, hey, you should be aware that, around now, you should start paying closer attention to these things, like through vibration analyses, rotating equipment start vibrating more, or pumping capacity, things like that. So there's telltale signs that you can use. And potentially, you can add it to SCADA. I mean, it's an operation and maintenance kind of best practices.
Yeah, that's what my question was, because has an assessment been done on these systems, before? Because at least we would have a baseline. And then now we're doing it to see kind of where it's at and see what the recommendations were back then. So we've never done anything like this to know where our systems are at.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks. Councilmember Harvey.
And maybe I'm confused by, by this item, but I guess the way I interpreted it and read it was much like some of the other things we have, like our vehicles and things like that. We kind of have a plan for replacement and a plan for useful life. And I guess, am I wrong that the way I understood this is this is kind of looking at our sewer and water systems from that perspective to get useful lives and being able to put together a plan for the future for replacing things? Did I misunderstand that?
That's a really good example. It's like, though, each car, we would look at the components of the vehicle and their useful lives. I mean, it's not just the vehicle itself, but we're looking at the tires and the carburetor and everything else in the car. So looking at a well, it's not, oh, let's pull up this well and put in a new well. It's there's the mechanical systems, there's electrical systems, there's the pump, there's all the water treatment, the chlorine generator. It's looking at each of these components and how critical they are in the overall operation and what their individual lifespans are. The granular activated carbon filter and the pumps and pipes that serve it. And so but that's a really good analogy for what we're trying to do here.
Because doesn't that then help us better with our water and sewer studies if we have a plan for like when things are going to possibly go wrong? Because I know a couple of times, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've been hit with unexpected things that kind of weren't planned for in our water and sewer rates, that if we had a plan, maybe we could account for them?
Oh, yes, exactly. So tasks 4 and 5, which are now task 4 in the study, that generates our CIP for renewal replacement. It'll have costs and a list of the components in their order of priority. And then you better believe it, we'll be taking that list and moving that into our CIP. So we will all start seeing renewal replacement projects start appearing in our CIP.
Thank you.
Any more questions for information before we go to
Just
public comment? Yes.
a bit of clarification. So this was in our current budget to have this work done. And it's just the water funding is over by about $75,000. And does that give us any concern from a budgetary standpoint?
The finance section does say that we are not pursuing the district monitoring CIP project this year, which was for $120,000. That money was moved into the enterprise fund, unappropriated fund balance. And so that'll help at least partially offset this, because some of that was used for talking about reactionary stuff, the emergency water repair project, which came recently to the council, where we had a few hit hydrants and a few service lines which were about to break, and so it was an emergency situation. So, but yes, we had to postpone a CIP project, which made some funding available to do this, to take that increment. I mean, it was budgeted for a certain amount, and you're correct. It's that incremental increase that we're talking about here, and we've taken care of it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, if it's all right, I'm going to go to public comment now on this item, which is a professional services agreement to provide condition assessments of the sewer lift stations and well sites. Nobody in the chamber, so we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Ford, that will end public comment.
Okay, back to council for further discussion and a decision. I will jump in and just say I think it's very valuable to get an outside eye on systems at some point, and while the cost looks high to me, I'm not in this world, and I don't understand the costs of professional services agreements for engineers. So I trust that staff evaluated the bids appropriately, and we got a decent bid. Councilmember Sparks.
I'll just say, I'm just a little uncomfortable with how much of the cost. I'm trying to add it up, but it's maybe $70,000 or something to look at our own documents and interview our own people. Seems like we kind of already have an idea of which things are failing, and I'd love to be able to see us save some money, but if this is what we need to do, then this is what we need to do.
Do you want a motion?
Any other comments?
No, you don't.
Okay, we'll take a
No,
motion.
you don't want a motion. Oh, okay, he's shaking no.
No, he was shaking to having comments.
I move that we adopt a resolution approving a professional services agreement with Schaeff and Wheeler to prepare condition assessments of the city's sewer lift stations and well sites, and authorizing the city manager to execute said agreement.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carries unanimously. All right, thank you all. Now, back to our regular agenda. We're to item 9A, which is to provide direction to the city's Water Advisory Committee member on the Water Advisory Committee statement of interest related to the proposed new Eel Russian facility and the associated water diversion agreement. And we'll start with a staff report. Director Scott again? It's all you all the time.
So, you're right. So, Craig Scott, Public Works Director, City Engineer. The city receives its wholesale water from Sonoma Water, and we have representation as with other contractors that receive wholesale water with monthly WAC TAC meetings. There's a technical advisory committee, TAC, that meets monthly, and every other month a water advisory committee, which is made up of electeds. The water agency, as part, there's alphabet soup with acronyms here. Just a warning. The PG&E had decided to decommission its Potter Valley project a few years ago and has been working away at that. And so the water agency, along with the county, Round Valley Indian Tribe, others have formed the Eel River ERPA, Eel River Project Authority. And that project authority has entered into a water diversion agreement and has been designing a NERF, a new Eel Russian facility. And the water contractors have been kind of sitting on the sidelines here, like really concerned about all the costs and the effort, and weighing that against what we perceive as very little benefit. Very little of that water would make it down into the lower river is our perception, and we've been asking the water agency to quantify that, because the water diversion agreement does stipulate limitations and constraints on when that diversion can be used. And if you look at it just kind of a cursory, when it's needed the most in the summer is when the most constraints happen. So it's a question whether we get a drop of water when it's really needed the most. So is that as a kind of a backdrop, the TAC said, hey, it's in our best interest to document where we're coming from, our statement of interest of what our interests and priorities are, and what we would like the water agency to emphasize in all of this. Now, the water agency is only one of several members of ERPA. We keep, I think, jumping to the conclusion that they are the one agency committing themselves to all of this, but it's really ERPA that's committing itself to these costs. Now, when you get into the statement, there's a number of statements here, 17, and I think it's fair to characterize it as it starts off with, hey, these are the common things we believe in. A reliable source of water, we'd still like, please pursue reliable, making our existing supply reliable and secure, make sure our water rights are good. And then as it gets further down, it does start showing our concern, or the tax concern, of the costs. This water supply agreement, there's millions, tens of millions of dollars that are being committed. And it's not tied to receiving water. So you could receive 0 water in a given year and still be on the hook for the operation cost of estimated to be $5 million a year, just to operate the facility. And then the amount of money to do reparations on the Eel River watershed, and more money to the Indian Valley Water Tribe for the right to use that supply rights, the water rights. I'm not going to read through all 17. I'm just kind of paraphrasing them, but that's all expressed here. And the TAC did talk with the Sonoma Water representatives in these, and so some modifications were made. I think it's fair to say they're not completely happy with us making this statement of interest and putting it out there. But it is we feel that it is in the contractor's best interest to do this at this time. There is, in the restructured agreement, there's actually, the restructured agreement is the wholesale agreement that the contractors have signed on to with Sonoma Water for setting our water supply amount we're allowed each year, and how much we charge for, what components of their costs we're charged for, and so forth. So in that agreement, the Potter Valley project is specifically listed out. Like, Sonoma Water's not to pursue this without talking with the contractors and identifying a benefit of that continued diversion to the contractors. So there's something in there about that too. I hope you've all had a chance to read it, and this is our opportunity to provide our WAC, Water Advisory Committee member, Laura Sparks, with input on making the decision at the next WAC meeting, which is Tuesday, November 3rd?
Monday, yeah.
Yeah, it's Monday, yeah, or Monday, sorry. Okay.
All right. Questions? Vice Mayor Lemus.
Yeah, so, it was really interesting, and I agree with the cost in the situation. And I had a question because I saw that Marin is included as a water contractor, or some of the jurisdictions in Marin County, but I don't see them at all in the IRPA. I see Sonoma County and Sonoma Water. Are they representing Marin jurisdiction's interests as well?
So the North Marin Water District is a contractor like us, and then the Marin Municipal Water District is a secondary. They're what? Okay, yes, thank you. A surplus water user. So if there's no surplus water use, they don't get any water from Sonoma Water. It's only when there's surplus water.
Okay, so anyway, that's what I was checking because I didn't see any representation on the IRPA.
It's Sonoma Water's representing
Sonoma
them.
Okay. is representing them, okay.
Supposedly, that's
Okay.
the idea.
Okay, because that's not County
Just as
Sonoma
they're
and Sonoma
representing
Water.
us.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, that was my question, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Sparks.
Thank you. I just had a question a little bit about the layout of this document. Before it gets into all the numbered bullet points, it says the WAC has adopted the following, or we're going to vote on whether we adopt this following statement of interest to guide Sonoma Water's participation. So we're kind of, like, this document is basically a request to Sonoma Water of how the contractors wish them to proceed. Is that right? So then there's, okay.
It's from the WAC to Sonoma Water.
So there's just some things that read kind of funny in it, like the number 16 says, ask Sonoma Water to do something, but it's like this list is things we're directing Sonoma Water to do. So it's just, I'm making sure I understand it right. So Sonoma Water should be asking ERPA to request the state water board do that enforcement.
Which one is that you're reading?
Number 16.
16.
Yeah. I just got confused because it said ask Sonoma Water. I thought this was, okay, so it's just maybe a little strange. And then I just wondered if you could give us any insight about the discussions on the TAC. Like, is there pretty unanimous support for the way that this is written, or was there some like vigorous debate about it, or if you could just give us a little bit of a feel for where people are at on it?
It was approved unanimously at the TAC meeting for October. And yes, it's pretty much everybody's on board with this. When we were crafting these paragraphs, it was how to make our points better. It was not like a big shift. It was like, no, this is good, but let's find out how much money the contractors have collectively contributed to environmental restoration in the Russian River, $50 million. You know, so let's put that in there. So it was all collaboratively making these points as concise and focused as we could.
Vice Mayor Lemus.
Yeah, I had a question about what were some of the concerns about reopening the restructure agreement before the term date?
There's a lot of provisions in the restructured agreement that are to our benefit right now. The allocation that we all received, what happens during a drought, and those allocations, even basing the annual rates on quantity is okay, is good. And also, it's a very extremely painful process. The restructured agreement was a period of 6 to 10 years. 10 years?
To develop it?
Over 7 years to negotiate back and forth all the provisions in there. So none of us are really in a big hurry to open it up again.
Okay, I see. Thank you so much.
Any more questions? Yes, go ahead.
Just, this is an answer to partly to your question that I think you can attest to in the WAC meetings. We repeatedly hear them mentioning we have a fully volumetric rate. It'd be great if we could reopen the restructure, reopen discussions about that to change. We hear that from the water agency frequently. So that would be a major shift if we were to reopen early, yeah.
Right, and our perspective on that is, let's say there's a fixed, it gets changed to a fixed and a quantity, maybe thinking it would be more stable for us. There's this inherent distrust of the water agency, I think, because of past performance, and that fixed charge, they would always find a way to.
Okay, so there's concerns about the volumetric rate could change.
Volumetric actually works for us fairly well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, let's open up for public comment, and we'll start with Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon. The first hand is from Neil Hancock. You have the floor.
Yes, good evening, Council. Thank you very much for considering the discussion on this. I've been advocating for a more informed view of the upper Russian River system, which is about 68 river miles. And so in the past, I have been before the Council and talked about it. I have also created a document which I circulated called the Upper Russian River Position Paper, and I've circulated it, and recently that was approved by the Sierra Club Redwood chapter to become a position paper for discussion about this. In particular, the statement of interests 1 indicates that the water supply for the contractors is primarily coming from Lake Sonoma, which is a product of a lot of work in the past. In 1985, Lake Sonoma was created. And so there's been a lot of resiliency work that has gone on in part of the different groups. And so for the upper Russian River, which is dependent on Lake Sonoma for some of its water, I mean, there's a lot of water that comes down the other channel, the main channel as well. It's really what sort of resiliency can be brought into the upper Russian River. And as has been noted in item number 2, that staff Director Craig noted is that the volume of water coming down from Lake Sonoma by the time it gets to the confluence has not been calculated. There's not a projection for this volume has not been provided, but it will be helpful in determining the estimated benefit to water users in the Russian River Basin. It's a very nice statement to actually put forward to the group to say, well, could this be to Sonoma Water? Could this be done in the future? Now, I do think it's a benefit that Sonoma Water is representing the whole of the Russian River across Mendocino as well. So this is a historical site, but it's a benefit that gets visible. And of course, they report to Sonoma County supervisors, and IRPA, the Eel Russian Project Authority, is very involved in that. So I think it's a big discussion that's going on, but I did want to raise this. And there's a lot of opportunity as identified in 16 that was just brought up just now that says, ask IRPA and Sonoma Water to talk to requests from the State Water Board to enforce limits on water, because there is a lot of water that it's been fully committed, that water. But there's a lot of opportunities, I believe, and talking to a lot of experts who aren't necessarily at the meeting all the time, there's a lot of opportunity there perhaps to try and get a wider variety, a wider portfolio of interests than just having the Eel to the Russian spring flows come into Lake Mendocino. So it's just to advocate for the upper Russian River as a whole, and thank you for listening to this.
Thank you.
Mayor Ford, that will end public comment.
All right, and seeing no commenters in the chambers as well, we'll end public comment. Okay, back to the council for discussion, questions. Any further? Councilmember Harvey.
Thank you, Craig and the TAC, for putting this together. I know that this subject has been around for quite some time, and Sonoma Water continues to want to be involved in this. And while, as pointed out, they're a big part of the Russian River, this has a huge price tag to it, and no one has been able to pony up the funds. And Sonoma Water does not directly have to pay for anything. They pass everything on. And fortunately, we are the people that it gets passed on to, and we have to abide, as was also stated in here, by state laws, and we can only charge our constituents for things that they get benefit from. And some of the comments that I've seen in Sonoma Water's things are, well, it's part of the system, so you're kind of contributing to the system. Well, I'm not seeing that we're getting much benefit from that, and I'm also not seeing the other players, the benefit that they're getting, and what's that kind of breakdown. But I appreciate the work that you guys have done to kind of point that out. So just as an example, so if we're getting 10% of the benefit out of all this when it all is said and done, but Sonoma Water has decided with this group that we're to pay 90% of the bill, that doesn't work. So I think it's real important for the WAC and the TAC to kind of keep continuing to say that we don't mind contributing to the system, but it has to be commensurate with the benefit that we get from that system. So thank you for that work, and good luck, Laura. This is, good luck.
Vice Mayor Lemus.
I also appreciate this letter for accountability. It really helps in that line. What Section 5 talks about, costs are allocated based on benefit received. without knowing accountability and transparency about what all the parties involved in IRPA, we won't know it, and I think our customers need to know that too. So it's important to get that information. So it's a good letter. I support it. Thank you.
I want to say I appreciate the hard spot that Soma Water is in. I hear the pressure they get from the upper river users. I'm sure some people over there are rueing the fact that they control Lake Mendocino and wish that they had never taken on that management. And so that the fact that maintaining service to the upper river is going to be incredibly expensive and nobody knows how to pay for it, I appreciate that is looking like a rough spot, but I agree with the points in the letter. I do support the statement and would like to provide direction to support the statement. I think it's important that we try to get that voice out there. It does feel to me like a critical benefit to the upper river that they're after with preservation of the diversion, but they're a total of 50,000 people, and they can't pay for it. So, but it can't come onto our, can't be borne by our ratepayers, both state law and we just can't pass that on to our ratepayers. So I would support the letter. Do you have the direction you need?
I do. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. And just since he's on a roll, maybe we'll ask Director Scott to present the fiscal year first quarter financial update. All right.
You stole my joke. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, hey, Craig, you can do the financial update too.
So we're on to item 9B, Director Corder to give us the fiscal year 25-26 first quarter financial update.
Okay, now my turn. So good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Angela Corder, Director of Administrative Services. Tonight I'll be presenting on the unaudited financial results for the first quarter for fiscal year 25-26. This covers the period ending as of September 30th, 2025. We do have some accruals in there, so there might be some receipt, but we try to keep a deadline so that we can get these presented to you as urgently as possible. This update provides a snapshot of where we stand citywide, including the general fund, our enterprise funds, and the city's cash and investments portfolio. Next slide. So within this presentation, it includes several components consistent with how we've presented our quarterly report, now going on, I think, 3 years. First is the citywide overview of revenues and expenditures, then a closer look specifically at our general fund, followed by the enterprise funds, which is the water and wastewater funds, and finally a summary of our cash and investments position. Next slide. So starting off, we'll have our big picture of the citywide revenues and expenses. Next slide. So at the citywide level, revenues and expenditures are tracking generally as expected for the first quarter. This is an anomaly. It is our first quarter. There are some timing differences, especially within the special revenues and the capital project funding, as our capital projects were delayed or we haven't built out specific grants to get those revenues in. Those timing differences are evident in those time frames compared to budget. Some of the other special revenues, including gas tax, RMRA, follow the same sales tax trend. Community facilities district fees, we get those with the property taxes, so those follow a different timeline. And then our things like Measure M parks or Go Sonoma funds, those come in quarterly and they come in after the quarter, so we haven't yet to receive them. We literally just received Measure M parks today for the first quarter, so they are not included, and of course are not included, of course, in the evaluation. Next slide. So more detailed into the general fund, the next slide. So the general fund remains the city's primary operating fund, which supports core services like public safety, administration, community development, public works. Throughout the first quarter, revenues are lower than last year by about 9%, largely due to slower sales and other tax receipts. Expenditures are higher earlier in this year because of our prepaid annual contracts, subscriptions, and insurance. So this does include our full fiscal year of insurance payments. We've adjusted that within our financials, so our next quarterly report will just show 50% of across, so you'll see that better aligned, but for this purposes, it's 100% included in the quarterly report. When comparing the current year results to the prior year, overall general fund revenues are down 9%. Revenues represent 8.8% of the total annual budget. This is similar to last year's, but again, it's down a little bit due to the sales tax we talked about, and we'll talk about in a little bit later. This suggests that the city is generally in line with expected seasonal patterns, but again, we want to continue to look at those trends and pay attention to them because it is a slight decrease. So with this early quarter data, it doesn't really indicate a trend because there's not enough data to extrapolate. We have some major revenue categories, such as property tax, which again don't arrive until end of December. We expect those to completely be on track. These variances aren't unusual for a quarter one. This is our outlying quarter because we don't have enough information. We're continuing to monitor, especially the sales tax, since we're so highly, dependent on it. It makes approximately 50% of our general fund revenues. So we're going to continue to monitor that on an ongoing basis and work with our consultants to make sure, is there any missing payments? Where is this trending? What should we be looking at? And for reference, this is a summary of all of the details around the general fund are included in packet pages 190 and 191, which is the actual report for the quarter. Next slide. So this is the non-pie box chart that shows the composition of our general fund revenues. So sales tax continues to be our largest single revenue source, followed by what will be property tax at the end of the year. So budget purposes, we have property tax, franchise taxes and fees, and business licenses. But for this first quarter, again, it is very heavy on sales tax, even with just the one receipt for the year. We do know that we have, again, some economic softening, things that are trending. You just can feel it out in the environment. People are kind of maybe pulling back, maybe deciding not to buy a change in their refrigerator or a new AC unit. And so we're just wanting to monitor that and see where things are going. This does highlight the importance of our sales tax and our need to diversify our single, primary source of revenues, and just having that to post-stool, we need some other levers. We have the other taxes for cannabis, which have really helped out, but we need some more diversification within our revenue streams, which we continue to work on. And then just the bottom corner, the numbers you can't see are just contributions. We have 1,500, and then public safety charges were at 12,000. Next slide. So on to our summary of the water and wastewater funds, which are our enterprise funds. Next slide. Oh, that one, yeah. So our enterprise funds, water and wastewater, are performing relatively well, though there are a few key variances worth noting. So the water fund expenditures are up 27%, mostly due to early year repair projects that we had to do, emergency repairs, as well as increased wholesale water costs and the insurance. Again, it's a full fiscal year of insurance that's in there, and so that's drive that cost up. The Sonoma County Water Agency, as we'll talk about in a later slide in our evaluation, their rates did come in at 3% higher than our anticipated 12%, and so they're at 15% versus what we had in our rate study at 12%. So revenues, however, are stronger, and they should continue to help offset these cost pressures. It is our peak part of the year because it's the summer, people are still irrigating, and so we do expect those revenues to start to decrease over the winter as rain comes in and that irrigation goes away. So for the sewer fund, expenditures are about 20% below budget, primarily due to project timing and deferred operating costs. So on the positive side, revenues increased approximately 30% over the prior year. That's due to, again, our rate increases, increased consumption for the water, which then placates into the wastewater. Really, our move to monthly billing, I think, has helped move things and understanding of where the revenues are and when they come in a lot better for specifically the sewer fund. The fund's revenues are to expense ratio is at 109%. It's just shy of our 110% target that we have in our fiscal sustainability resilience plan, but it is a significant improvement over the 85% that we were at last year. So that's a big win. Again, we still have some timing differences with the expenditures. We do expect these to kind of be in alignment. And the report that goes into more detail on this, the enterprise funds, are packet pages 192 to 193. Next slide. So we have some cute pictures before we talk about our cash and investments. Next slide. So as of September 30th, so this is a little bit different. We changed from a period basis where we're talking about activity over a period of time to a snapshot in time. This is where our cash was at exactly September 30th. We had a portfolio that totaled almost $15 million. It's fully compliant with our updated investment policy. We earned approximately $165,000 in investment and interest earnings just for this quarter. We do see that our cash levels are sufficient to meet our operational needs for the next 6 months, which again is a requirement of our investment policy. Our interest earnings do continue to be strong, but they are softening as the rates are decreasing and we keep things in a more short-term rates. Thankfully, we have an extended laddered investments, and so some of our investments that we made last year, you know, we're still getting much better returns than if we were turning around and reinvesting them now. Our liquidity still remains solid with those short-term investments that we keep with our CAMP account. And we're going to continue to have prudence over the portfolio management. And we have our investment memo included in the quarterly investment memo on packet pages 195 to 199. Next slide. So these graphs just really slice and dice that same approximately 15 million in the different ways that we hold our pooled cash. So even though it's the same $15 million, that we have them, you know, invested in different types. So that's that composition. It's in our liquid accounts with CAMP, excuse me. We have our laddered investments that are with US Bank. I do keep a little bit of funds available in Exchange Bank so we can pay our bills and our payroll costs. And then we do have some minor amounts that we keep with SCIP, this is Sonoma County Investment Pool, as well as with LAIF. We are continuing to monitor the LAIF rates compared to our CAMP because historically as rates start coming down, the LAIF rate comes down at a slower rate than the other investment pools. And so we're continuing to monitor that so that we can switch over to LAIF as soon as that kind of happens. But right now they're trending very much in parallel. So we're planning on keeping it in the higher rates as long as possible. We also slice and dice that same cash and investments by our funds. So we have an amount of funds that are held for the general fund, the water, and the sewer. And so you'll see a majority of it is the general fund, the water, sewer, as well as the special revenue funds, which are all just kind of pooled together. Next slide. So the yellow polka dots. I have to apologize, but this is what our job is why we set this up, is so that we continue to monitor what's happening with our financials in order to raise things to a level of awareness before they become red or we start losing things or having to change things so dramatically. So this slide summarizes our fiscal resilience indicators as of this quarter. So the general fund cash coverage did dip temporarily, and that's really due to front-loaded expenditures. That's, again, the insurance, capital projects that were ongoing, and we're waiting for special revenue funds to come in to reimburse back the general fund for those expenditures. And so we're feeling really a timing difference. We're right on target, just below, you know. We're at, if we round it up, but I don't round up for these things, it would be green, but it's not. For the rolling 12 months revenues to budget, they're below target, and that's driven really by that weaker sales tax and other tax revenues. Again, we're continuing to monitor that, knowing that things could increase in this next tax payment. We might get a different adjustment from the state when they do the distributions, because they calculate their distributions as of a point in time, and if they haven't received a receipt from one of the taxpayers, we don't get it. So we might have a true up this next month, which will make things more even. We did bring up that in the report, we did receive the payment for October, and so taking that into consideration, if the budget, when we annualize just the 2 payments over the course of the budget, which again is not a big enough sample size to really do that, but just for giving an example, we would be off from budget by approximately $350,000. So we're about 95% of budget. So it's really not enough for us to make any changes at this point in time because we just don't know, but we really expect to continue to monitor this, bring it back to council, and have a full discussion and hopefully a better story at mid-year to talk about, you know, sales tax is in line with budget and hopefully better than budget, and we'll have a better discussion then. There's also variances that are related to the timing based on the major revenue receipts that were booked later in the year. We also have similar items for the water. So unfortunately, the water one, like I talked about earlier, where we're being charged at the 15% increase, but our rates were at 12, continues to be yellow, and will be yellow until we have an updated rate schedule. The city overall remains financially stable despite the additional yellow dots. And we note that the revenues to expenditures will rise, and we're really excited about what improvements the sewer fund is actually showing over time. And the overall fiscal resilience detail is on packet pages 200 to 203. Next slide, yeah. So in summary, while the first quarter revenues are lower than prior year, the city remains fiscally stable. We really think things are going to be in line. We are going to continue to monitor it, work with our sales tax group to see what's going on, follow up on our other taxes as well to make sure they're coming in alignment for the cannabis tax. There's no reason for us to believe that the property taxes are anything different than what we budgeted, because we've already been told that that's what they are from the county, and they're the ones who assess them. So expenditures, again, are off due to timing, and our cash balances are considered healthy. The enterprise funds continue to perform well overall, and staff are going to provide updated forecasts as we move forward into the mid-year, early next calendar year. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Great. Any questions from council? Councilmember Harvey.
Are we delaying anything or considering specific items to delay, given we're off a little bit if that continues?
So we have already delayed our major street project. So that's the one we did take out to bid early summer and was way over our estimates, and so we decided to delay it until spring. We're currently re-looking at that project to see if it might be 2 different projects where a more heftier costed one would be pushed into a future fiscal year. But other projects we're looking at a contract by contract basis.
Thank you.
Is it appropriate to say something like in the Cotati Connections that, you know, shop local, dine local, your sales tax dollars help fund our projects or anything like that?
It's always great to support local businesses, but spending in general, even if you're, you know, buying things through a new car, right? So if you buy it and, you know, you're not going to go to Santa Rosa, but maybe you'll go to Santa Rosa and buy a car. We still get the Measure S tax here.
Okay.
So
yeah, if there might be anything that you think would be appropriate to craft for that, it might be worth, you know, sticking in there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, let's open this for public comment. Seeing no commenters in the room, we'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon if you'd like to make a public comment. Seeing no hands, Mayor Ford, that will end public comment.
All right, back to the council for discussion. I like Councilmember Savage's idea. I wonder if we could invite the chamber to put together a little shop local blurb or something that we might put in the next newsletter. Do what we can. It is a little concerning to see, even though it's just 1 month, to see sales tax off by 18, 19%. That's a little scary. I didn't buy a new fridge, but I'm not going to, just to. Councilmember Harvey.
I just wanted to say thank you for the report and thank you for being, you know, very accurate and conservative, because that's kind of what we need to see. So the fact that you said, well, you could have rounded up, and, you know, we need to see the hard answers when they're there so that we can deal with them appropriately. So thank you for that.
Agreed. Vice Mayor Lemus.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you for being on top of everything and alerting us, like with the little yellow dots. And this is good also for the public to see, you know, kind of our condition. We're good, and we know a lot of other cities are having a hard time, but I appreciate you and your staff for kind of keeping us kind of appraised and up to date on everything. Thank you.
Great. Do you need anything more from us? Report received. Thank you. All right, that'll take us to item 10, City Manager's Report and Council Member Reports. We'll start with the City Manager.
All right, thank you. So we have the Police Department has a community neighborhood meeting coming up, and this is the biannual in-person town hall for those in the community that want to engage with our officers. And it's going to be Thursday, November 13th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the police station in the training and community room. More information on the maps, the community neighborhood zones, are on our city website under the police page, so people can find out what zone they're in if they want to know before they go to the meeting. But we generally encourage people to go if they're interested or have specific concerns that they want to talk to the police about. We are in discussion with the Redwood Empire Food Bank to see how we can play a constructive role in the cuts to the federal SNAP and CalFresh benefits starting November 1st. So it's still a work in progress, but we hope to have something quickly. Maybe some food collection here locally, but also getting the word out as to where people can get food locally here in Cotati. We have a water service line being replaced in East Cotati Avenue at Lancaster. So it started today. You might have seen some potholing out there if you went down East Cotati. And there's going to be some traffic control, so drivers should allow some additional time to get through the area, and hopefully it'll be done in a day or two. Should be pretty quick. We're also finally getting back to the, I wonder if anyone forgot about them, but the bollard lights at Pocket Park. Remember those lights? The frogs, don't forget them. Yeah, so anyway, we're getting back to those lights, and we hope to have the project completed by next Wednesday. And there will be a dimmer on the lights so that we can dim them down so it lights the pathway but doesn't look like a ball field at night and lit up, you know. So that's going.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, it just there was some issue with PG&E, wasn't there? Did that got sorted out then?
There was, yeah. We found an alternate power source to connect to. The issue with PG&E was that the original design connected to the street lighting circuit, and they didn't want it connected to the street light circuit for whatever PG&E reason. So we had to find a different power source without dropping a new meter there, and so we.
Did you tell the homeowners whose house you tapped into?
I thought we weren't supposed to say that in the meeting, but yeah. It's a slight bump in the electric bill. They won't notice.
For the record, that's a joke. Right?
Yeah. Right. It's we're connecting to the sewer lift station across the bridge. If anyone's curious. All right. So then repairs to the police station roof were completed a few weeks ago, and so far it's held up well. We've had a little bit of rain, and the police are very happy that it was just a weird oddity in the roof hip where they're getting some water in, and hopefully not anymore. As the council knows, we're also going to do the well pump at Well 2 and also Sunflower Park And those are going to be in early to mid-January, so those roofs will be replaced here shortly. Sunflower Park, most of the concrete work is done. I don't know if you guys have checked it out. It's, they're starting to put the trees in and the mulch, all the irrigation's in, all the electrical's in. So they're, the playground's gonna start getting set here in the next couple weeks. It's actually pretty cool. So this will be our first playground with a full resilient mat, so no bark in the playground. We got some feedback from some of our other projects that some parents with kids with disabilities would prefer a fully resilient surface. It's a lot more expensive, but this is the right scale. It's not that big of a playground area. And it'll be pretty cool. It has a sunflower pattern like in the resilient surface, which I think is nice. Anyway, we expect that that's going to be complete before the end of the year, probably by mid-December. And then Putnam is moving closer to completion. And we had a walkthrough last week, and they have a final punch list. Well, it's not it's a punch list. It's a fairly long punch list of things they have to fix before we can do a final punch list and sign off on the work. But we do expect the work to be done in the next couple weeks. And then just a reminder, we're working collaboratively with the county and other jurisdictions on a hazard mitigation plan update. We have a South County Communities plan that's being hosted in Petaluma in the fairgrounds October 30th from 2 to 3 p.m. or 6 to 7 p.m. depending on when you can make it, if that interests you. And then, again, just a reminder about the Climate Ready Fair is set for March 28th at the Cotati Depot. So if you haven't put it on your calendar, add it to your calendar. Last weekend was our 3rd annual Cotati Fall Fest. Friday was the Autumn Moon Soiree, which was a farm-to-table dinner with all the produce grown on the farm. We had live music and other activities there. This event will continue. We plan to continue it as a fundraiser for the ranch. And the first year we had approximately 30 guests, and we're excited to see it grow. The next day, on Saturday, we had our family fall fest and had over 250 people attend. So there's a lot of activities and games and things, but it was a great day. And it gets better every year. This coming Friday is our 6th annual Cotati Candyland Trick-or-Treat event in La Plaza Park, and we wrap in a lot of the businesses. A lot of businesses participate. So if you're down there in the daytime, you see a bunch of kids running around in costumes. That's what that's about. We're in La Plaza Park. We have a booth set up, and we're working with the Rancho Cotati High School students who helped out with the carnival games in the park. And we have 30 stops throughout the town and over 40 participants handing out goodies this year. And then November, December are Thanksgiving and winter breaks for the kids out of school. We have our holiday tree lighting coming up that first Friday. In December, also the Breakfast with Santa event, which is already sold out. And we do have a wait list if anyone still wants to get in there. So anyway, that's available. And then finally, I'll just say that we continue to offer a variety of classes through the fall, including strength and balance, memoir, writing, storytelling, Aikido, Zumba Gold, and children's theater, as well as after-school enrichment at the Veranda Fleddy Ranch, and free compost pickup days and volunteer days. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions for the city manager? Okay, we'll go to council member reports. I'm going to start down at this end with council member Savage.
All right, thank you, Mayor Ben. I attended the 2x2x2 meeting with the school superintendent with Laura, and it was on the 15th, the day before their rock, shake, rattle, roll, and which I think was a real success. Next on the calendar, I think they're going to look at maybe some type of a spring event to do in the community with the schools for maybe a little more exposure. I went to the legislative committee with Sylvia, and Mike McGuire, pro tem Senate leader, spoke, and there was about 15 of us there, so it was a fairly intimate group. I was expecting a larger, so it was nice to have that much of his attention, talking about the current state of things. And myself and Samantha, the Rohnert Park council member, highlighted the funding challenges we have on the per student basis, with it being more of a attendance-based reimbursement instead of an enrollment-based, and if there's any thing that we could work towards for maybe better options. Then I attended the Library Advisory Board, and they are going to start installing new HVAC and electrical systems at the Rohnert Park Cotati Library this fall. And then in the spring, it's carpet and paint, and there will be a period of time where the library is closed during the paint and carpet installation. Then we had the Sonoma County Mayors and Council Members Lunch in Windsor this last week, and a gentleman spoke on Measure O and the homeless services and a kind of an update on that, and I thought that was very thorough, very interesting presentation. That's all.
Great, thank you. Vice Mayor Lemus.
Yes, okay, thank you. So first of all, I do want to invite people that this Sunday, November 2nd, there will be a Dia de los Muertos event here at the Cotati Plaza, and it's going to be a great event. They have bands and music and vendors and candy for the kids. So it'll be like trunk or treats as well on Sunday. And it starts at 12 o'clock here at the Cotati Plaza. It's the first time of this event, so excited about that. October 15th, I went, also, on Dia de los Muertos, please bring like a picture, a memento of loved ones that have passed. They'll have a community altar, so you can add their picture there as well. On the 15th of October, I went to the Marin Latino Leaders, where they recognized a Marin Latina leader, Maria Nigel. She's a director for the First Five Marin. On the 17th, I went with Councilmember Savage to the Mayors and Council Members Legislative Meeting with Senator Pro Tem Mike McGuire, who he gave us data, statistics on why we're the fourth largest economy in the world and the first in the United States. We also discussed the challenges, and we talked about CEQA and how the CEQA will be eased for buildings, so there's pros and cons about that, and some of the potential funding losses next year. A great outcome of the meeting was that there is a plan to hold a Proposition 1 and Proposition 4 workshop where local jurisdictions can learn more about funding through these propositions. So it includes things like parks and other things that we might be able to get funding for. On October 17th, I attended Sonoma Clean Power's CAC Ad Hoc Committee meeting. And this ad hoc, we're trying to look for more Community Advisory Committee members for Sonoma Clean Power. So we discussed the timelines for the CAC applications and we opted to extend it to mid-November with appointment recommendations in December. So that recommendation will go to the Sonoma Clean Power Board. So if anyone's interested in applying, please submit your application. And there are potentially up to 5 positions on a Community Advisory Committee with Sonoma Clean Power. October 22nd, I went to Lake Mendocino for the FIRO agreement signing. FIRO is the Forecast Informed Reservoir Operations, which is the first of its kind, and the first one's at Lake Mendocino. So it's a water control manual update signing ceremony that normally there is a whole group of partners, including the U.S. Corps of Engineers and NOAA, which unfortunately are being furloughed right now, so they weren't able to attend, but a lot of the other partners were there. And they handed out these really cute manuals. This is what they used to go by before, the Water Control Manual Update, which Corps of Engineers used to use this manual to make decisions on water. And so now with FIRO, the forecasts and weather, they use science technology to let them know how to make changes. But this is not really a manual, it's a cute little notebook where you can kind of just use right. So it's a play on the manual. Many partners attended, and we were using, like I said, 1950s technology, but today we have a new process using new technology. And so this FIRO agreement really shows that when we use science and technology together, it helps to improve the environment. I also attended today with the mayor, the Sonoma State University Peace Pole dedication and planting of Hiroshima peace trees, which is a ginkgo tree that survived the bombing in 1945, so now they use plantings and cuttings of it to create new plants and new trees. So that happened at Sonoma State. Local Rotarian chapters, SSU Rotaract Club, and Veterans for Peace were on hand for the unveiling and planting of the tree. Also, the San Francisco General Consul of Japan attended the event as well. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. My colleagues have covered several of the things I did since our last meeting. I'll mention one other. Last week I attended a webinar run by the Strong Cities Network on sort of leadership. Let's see, what was the official title? Mayoral Leadership in the Face of Rising Incivility and Polarization. It was a good event, nothing earth-shattering. It's all about communication and relationships and that sort of thing. The Mayors and Council Members Association presentation on homelessness and mental health funding issues in particular was a good one, and as many of the funding discussions are right now, a little scary. And then tomorrow morning, I'll just mention the Vice Mayor and I are going to the Mayor's Committee of Sonoma County Hiring on People with Disabilities Awards Breakfast. So, all right, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's see. October 21st, I attended the Master Plan on Aging Caregiving Action Team, and we're trying to fine tune our work on the caregiving, and we're going to start with a smaller pilot to kind of let people know about that, and it's going to be focused on, are you a caregiver? Because one of the things that has been found is that most people don't really recognize that they're caregivers, and there's lots of supports for people that are caregivers, from training to being paid and lots of different things. So we're going to start with a small pilot. We are waiting for some materials from the state, from CalCare. They're working on some materials, and we'll fine tune them, but that pilot should start sometime next year, but we're kind of getting closer on that. I also attended the Mayors and Council Members Association meeting with others, and I went for the mayor to the board meeting, and we saw a presentation on the Measure I and the first five, and that was a really good presentation, and the presentation is out on the Mayors and Council Members website. And the other item on there was kind of putting together in writing a protocol for planning items for us to bring to mayors and council members. So they just kind of formalized that. Apparently, there were some issues this year, and there were some feelings hurt. So anyway, so now there's a written process that we will go through, apparently, to do that. On the 16th, I attended the Zero Waste Sonoma meeting, and that was kind of exciting because we approved and finalized the purchase of a building up by the airport. So our staff will have a home, which is great. We were able to purchase the building for a lot less than what it was going to take for us to build one with the household hazardous waste facility. So it actually closed on Thursday, and they got the keys because there were some issues with the building, some minor issues. They were able to get quite a discount on the purchase price, so that was really great. And the people that own the building are also renting back a quarter of the space, so that's going to be nice because that will help cover the cost of kind of the electricity and the landscaping and expenses that they would have that they'll now have to pay for. The rent will be covering that, so that's actually pretty exciting. And I went to the repair fair at the library last weekend. They had some really great booths there and stuff, and a lot of very different things going on with food and with fixing things and refilling of containers and all kinds of things. I actually had a lamp fixed, which was really exciting. The repair fair was jam-packed inside for that, but they'll be doing more of those. But so keep your things, they can fix them. It was pretty interesting. I had to wait and seeing people, all the different things that people were bringing in to get fixed, and they had people there that, well, give it a try, and they fixed like all kinds of things, all the way down to there was a little child that had a little toy that wasn't functioning properly, and they were able to get that working again. So that was pretty exciting. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Not too much to report. I attended the same meeting that Councilmember Savage did, so he kind of hit most of that. The one thing I'd share from that is we got some clarification on, trying to get on the same page in terms of what are the facts of the school district's funding, so that when we're talking to people around the county, we can communicate that out. And the school district is the third largest district in the county, and it's funded on a per student basis, 37th out of 40. So it's one of the lowest per student funding in the county. So that's part of why the fiscal situation is so difficult. So trying to raise more awareness about that and talk to our elected officials about the inequity that's there. So that's all.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Laura and John, is Sonoma State participating in the 2x2x2?
They haven't attended the last couple
Yeah.
meetings, no.
Not lately. Okay, thanks. So it's just 2x2x2, not 2x2x2x2.
Well, I think they're invited, they just haven't been sending someone.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
2 to the 3rd or 2 to the 4th.
Thank you. Was there information received after the agenda was posted?
Yes, there were approximately 10 to 12 public comments received. All of those have been posted to the HTML agenda and are available here in print in the chamber tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're adjourned at 8:16. Thank you all.